Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Pittsburgh Sports Memories. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of being favored to win the Big East championship. It was the age of probably finishing fifth in the ACC Coastal. And that's enough of that, Tim. As usual, welcome to the Pittsburgh Sports Memories podcast. I'm your co-host, Steve Wirt, and I'm joined by
I'm Tim Hannon. Suddenly, I'm feeling very low culture.
Yes. This is our version of Masterpiece Theater. Or I only ever watched Mousterpiece Theater, which was hosted by George Plimpton, who what did play football, Tim. So there's your sports connection, I guess. So in this episode, we're going to do a favorite. We're going to compare and contrast two different seasons of Pitt football, and that would be the 2010 and the 2018 seasons, because just from my own personal standpoint, my viewpoints of these seasons are so opposite. It's very odd. So first off, you can't know your what's going on with you. You don't know the major players. So here's our kind of our lineup of people and the people involved. First, we'll start with the athletic directors, and the first person I'll start with is in 2010, the athletic director for the Pitt athletic department was one Steve Peterson. He's rather a divisive figure in Pitt sports. So I couldn't come up with anything. So I did an old fashioned pros and cons list, Tim. So this should be fun. Okay, are you ready? We'll start with the pros, the positive, right? He gets the Peterson Event Center built. That's a good thing, right? He hired Walt Harris. I could live with that. He gets Pitt out of the object and total dark ages that were the sports of the 1990s, of both basketball and the football program. He gets Pitt into the ACC when the Big East was falling apart. Okay, are you ready for the cons?
Yeah,
All right.
I could guess a few of them. Go ahead.
He gets Pitt Stadium torn down. And this was so weird, is like the pros are almost the same as the cons. It's very odd with him. Like something he did well has a very bad con to it. So I'm not sure. Like I said, he's a very weird figure in Pitt sports. He hired Mike Haywood. He also hired Todd Graham. He started a controversial donor program for seating in the brandly new built Peterson Event Center. I put also as a con, he got Pitt into the ACC because I mean it was kind of out of desperation. So it's good they ended up there, but how they got there, and of course, probably one of the bigger cons was he fired Dave Wannstedt. So there's your pros and cons list of Steve Peterson. Take it with you will. Not sure what his legacy exactly is. Maybe we'll talk about that a little more at the end, or if you want to. Any comments on the legacy of Steve Peterson?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, number one, he had two different stints, right?
Yes.
He was there. I can't remember the years, but he came in the '90s. He left, and he came back in like the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
So it, I think the biggest thing, Steve, was your pro about like took Pitt out of the dark ages, because it really was. It was the program, basketball and football were just complete dumpster fires, and he moved them forward. But then I think they lost some of the tradition and some of the things that made Pitt when they did that. Pitt Stadium moving to Heinz Field. I mean, some people consider that a con, some people consider it a pro. I don't know. It was an old stadium, and they had to build the Peterson Event Center, but now they don't have games on campus. You also didn't mention that he changed the uniforms and the colors.
Oh yeah,
right. That was a big thing. Now they're back to what they used to be. I believe he's the one that got rid of the Penn State sucks part of the theme song, part of the fight song. So there was just a lot of
that was more. I would say those last two are kind of more minor.
Well,
fan grudges.
I
But
was kind of lumping
yeah,
them into just the
yeah,
overall theme
yeah,
of like the old Pitt versus new Pitt.
yeah,
So he was trying to
yeah.
create like new Pitt, and some of those things needed to
Pittsburgh,
happen.
going to Pittsburgh instead of like we're not Pitt anymore, we're
Yeah.
Pittsburgh. Yeah,
And again, some of those things were well intentioned, and some of those things did need to happen because again, the university was kind of stuck in neutral. But then some of those things, like I said, kind of took away some of the what made Pitt Pitt. So it's a mixed bag for sure.
So in 2018, the athletic director is Heather Lyke, and I do believe she had just gotten hired at this point. Um, I mean, I don't mean to come off rude. I have no idea how much say she actually has in the running and hiring and firing. I get the feeling, I mean, it's kind of a hot take. I think she's a little bit of a figurehead and she makes some decisions, but I will say this. She has stayed patient with both the coaching staff of basketball and football and given them a chance to succeed. Where, I mean, quite honestly, with especially with Jeff Cable, like after some of the seasons he's had, he probably should have been fired. But apparently, it's paying off this year because they have 20 wins. So go figure. And the same thing with footballs. We'll see. Like she kind of hangs in there with Narduzzi and gives him a chance to kind of stable themselves. And definitely other programs in Pitt, definitely in the past would have definitely fired both those coaches and not stuck with them. So maybe that's a positive in her direction. Besides if we want to go con the stupid giving a drink to stay in the second half of a game. Uh, on a personal note, yeah, basically moving my season tickets without asking me and putting the students there who don't show up for games. So basically telling me she would rather have nobody sit in my seats than me sit in my seats. So thanks, Heather. Always appreciated.
I knew you were going to find a way to work that in. Kudos. Yeah, she's very like Rooney-esque in how she runs the programs. I get the feeling, right? Like stability matters more than instantaneous results kind of thing. So for better or worse, that's how she's always struck me. She's very much like the Rooneys, the way she runs things.
Well, it's paying off. I will say that it's definitely paying off, at least for this year at basketball. We'll see if he can keep it going, and it has for footballs. We'll see. So let's move on to the coaches. In 2010, it was a gentleman named Dave Wannstedt. He had been hired in 2005, and at this point, he's had two chances to win the Big East, and he's not been able to. And especially, he had a devastating loss to Cincinnati just a year before. But he's still kind of living off that 13-9 goodwill. But I think the fans and especially the administration are starting to, hey, you need to win the Big East one of these times here. It's kind of weird. Frank Signetti Jr. He is the son of legendary coach Curt Signetti, and he's the offensive coordinator for this team. And so all things are new again, I guess. So in 2018, Pat Narduzzi, he has been hired in 2015 he kind of has to stop the coaching carousel that was Pitt football of the 2000s, those 2010 era. You know, it was basically had like, you know, the job retention of your local Wendy's. So he's had some success so far. He's upset Clemson, beat Penn State. That was a big win. That's like a 13-9 situation for him. But at the beginning of the 2018 season, I'd say he's kind of in the same position that Wannstedt was in 2010. He hasn't won the Coastal yet. Now, he hasn't been there maybe as long as Wannstedt was, but he probably needs to at least win the Coastal division to kind of maybe solidify himself. The offensive coordinator for Narduzzi at that point was a guy named Sean Watson, and he's an old buddy of Narduzzi. He has been around as a coach forever. And he actually was brought in at the last minute after Matt Canada jet sweeped himself into the LSU money for like $3 million. He did that end round. They got that sweet SEC LSU money. He actually had. Did you know? I found this out. Canada had a $375,000 buyout. That's for an offensive coordinator, Tim.
Yeah, that's
not a head coach.
That's hard to believe,
yeah,
given the current situation that Matt Canada is in. But kudos to him.
Yeah, hey, he cashed in.
He could buy lots of those hats that he likes with that money.
Yeah. I bet his buyout with the Steelers is less than that.
I bet it is.
So the players in 2010, Jonathan Baldwin, he's a wide receiver. He's looking to go to the NFL. He's actually very good and he's highly ranked. He's a great recruit by OneStat, and he's from Aliquippa. So, there's a lot of football talent that comes out of Aliquippa. Maybe he'll be the next Darrelle Revis, Tony Dorsett, Sean Gilbert, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean. So maybe be the next guy. Dion Lewis, who's a decent running back from New York, he just seems to be like his best talent is he's really short, and Pitt has a really big offensive line. So he just kind of hides and then he pops out and it's like, hey, there's Dion Lewis. So no, where is he? But he was actually like, I don't know, like I always underrated him. Like I never realized like how good he was, but he was really good for Pitt too. And he had a really great college career, quite honestly.
Had they hung on to the 31-point lead against Cincinnati and won the Big East and played against Tim Tebow in the Sugar Bowl, Dion Lewis was definitely the MVP of that game, probably the MVP of that team.
I think he had 50 carries, if I remember, 40 or 50 carries, some insane number.
And what should have been the game-winning touchdown. So yeah, Dion Lewis was underrated, and I'm sure you'll mention goes on to have a pretty good pro career.
I tell you, the real star of this team, and I always thought this guy never got. I guess he did get some. Jabal Sheard. Do you remember Jabal Sheard at Pitt?
Was he the guy that smashed through the glass plate window? I don't know why that's all I remember about him, but he played. Yes, I do remember him. He played for the Cleveland Browns. He was very good.
He is very good. And I'll have a story. I have a good, like, during the season, he played Rutgers. When they played Rutgers, I've never seen anything like this. And this is how good Jabal Sheard was. So I'll save that for when we go over the seasons. But, yeah. And the quarterback for that team was Tino Sinceri. He started the season, and quite honestly, he was a backup to Bill Stahl. And Pat Bostic was also on the team, but Pat Bostic just kind of sat the bench that year because of the 3-0 Sun Bowl disaster. And he looked like an NFL quarterback. He looked like he had the arm. He looked really good. So I thought, they had their quarterback with Tino. So in 2018, they had some guy named Kenny Pickett, who I do believe is his second year playing, first year starting. And he improved. He was looking to improve, and he had beat out a guy named Ben DiNucci, who is currently the Seattle Dragons of the XFL. He's currently their starting quarterback as of 2023.
And 2018 was Pickett's first full year starting.
Yes.
He started,
and DiNucci had left. Yeah.
And he was competing with that transfer.
I think Jeff George was on the team at this time, and Jeff George senior, a junior, not senior, of course. But
they had a transfer quarterback.
Max Brown had left.
Okay, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, so Max Brown was the year before.
Okay. Then it was really just Pickett. It wasn't. I gotcha. You got.
Yeah, Max Brown was from USC, and he got hurt. That was one of the reasons they had such a bad year. Because if Max Brown would have stayed healthy, they probably would have made a bowl game the year before. So, but be that as it may, Darren Hall is a running back, and he's been around, and he's talented, but he just can't seem to stay on the field. I don't know why, but he just seemed like he was a really good player, and he has a really good season that year. So now the talent was Quadri Allison, who was really good. Like, what year did Connor get hurt? Was it 15 or 16?
It was 15.
Yeah, and he played that year, and he played really well that year and had a great year. So he's the starter now that James Conner has gone on to the NFL. And you know who I forgot played on this team, Tim? I totally forgot. DeMar Hamlin. He was a safety on this team.
Okay.
Him and Dane Jackson both played on this team. Yeah, so totally forgot about him. I'll just go over some of the season's key moments in both seasons. So in 2010, really, like, one of the bigger losses that year, this really kind of, like, I think sealed OneStat's fate, was Pitt goes up to UConn and they lose in UConn. And I think they were actually either in the lead to take the Big East, and it was kind of middle to later the season, like a November game. And they lost 30-28. And literally, they gave up 222 yards rushing to the immortal UConn running back. Oh, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer for sure, Jordan Todman. Like, really? And he literally, like, it was so bad that, like, at the end of the game, like, they needed to keep getting, UConn needed to keep getting first downs to keep Pitt off the field. They went for it. Randy Edsall went for it 4th and 1 at his own 19. That's the disrespect. And they got 4 yards. It wasn't even a close call. It was like he easily got the first down. So, that's probably the game, quite honestly, that got, I would say, you know, but that probably got Dave Wannstedt fired. That probably is it.
Yeah. Connecticut didn't even really have they didn't have really like a Division I program really before the Big East.
Yeah, a couple years earlier. And then, like, I think too, like, I don't think what's his name, who's the commentator for ESPN now? I don't think he was the quarterback that year even. The guy who played for the Lions.
Orlovsky.
Yeah, I don't think he was their quarterback.
No, this was after. This was after. He was in the NFL by then. Wannstedt always had a tough. Well, and even Harris. I don't know why, but Pitt always had a tough time with UConn, and they did have a pretty good program. I mean, it wasn't. I know that they were.
You know what it was, Tim? You know what it was? That was because Randy Edsall's. I don't know if he's from. I think he's from Western Pennsylvania. So what he would do is he would go in and pull like a Syracuse or West Virginia, and he would go and get like the guys that go to Pitt, like the guys that weren't. They're good, the decent players, but they just aren't quite good enough. Pitt wasn't think. So they would go and get those guys, and those guys would be okay in other games. But then when they came home and play in front of their family or they're playing Pitt, it was like all of a sudden, like, you know, you're gonna get their best effort. And I always thought that with UConn, that was a big thing because I didn't look up other players on this team, but there's like a ton of Western WPIAL players on these UConn teams. So
okay, yeah, that's an interesting insight. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing West Virginia does, and Syracuse did it too. I don't think Syracuse does it as much, but like Troy Nunes is from Butler, so the Syracuse used to do a lot of that stuff. Another really bad loss, and this is the loss that probably put the nail in the coffin for Dave Wannstedt, was they lost to West Virginia. I remember going to this game. They lost 35-10. It wasn't just a loss. It was a blowout, and it was at home. And Pitt, even after the UConn loss, Pitt had a chance to still be in it. Like after UConn, they played South Florida and beat them. And they still had a chance if they won that game to, I think, either get a share of the Big East title or win it outright. And they literally got blown out by Geno Smith and Geno Smith literally went 9 for 12, but he had 3 touchdowns, literally completed 9 passes in the game, but 3 of them went for touchdowns. So, and that knocked Pitt out of BCS contention. And so I think that was kind of the nail in the coffin. Pitt did play Cincinnati in another rematch the year after, but Cincinnati wasn't that good because Brian Kelly had left. And they won 27-10 or 28-10, and that was just it's probably too little, too late. And I think the rumors started to swirl that Wannstedt was going to get fired. And after that Cincinnati, he was actually fired on December 7th, ironically enough. They played Cincinnati on December 4th. So,
Steve, do you feel like they quit in that West Virginia game? Because I think that was the charge at the time.
That's was going to be my point about this team is like, it's why I really don't like this team. That 2010 team, I really strongly dislike because they just quit and they're such a talented team, but I'll go over some of that a little later, like get more into like why I really don't like them. Dion Lewis so they go to a bowl game. Wannstedt won't coach it. So I forget who coached that game even. It was like one of his assistants.
Yeah, we covered that in a previous episode, how there was like literally 6 coaches between the time they fired Wannstedt and the time they hired.
Defensive coach. Okay. Phil Bennett coached that game.
Okay.
So they play Kentucky in the BBVA bowl game if you need a mortgage or something. So, and they won, and Pitt wins 27-10. And it's like, and Dion Lewis went for 105 yards. And Ray Graham, I totally forgot about him. He went for 90 yards. So they had a really good game running the ball, but it's just too little, too late. And it's like in the SEC, it's like SEC, like another SEC loss to a Big East team in football. So put that in your pipe and smoke it, Kentucky. I mean, it's just very frustrating. It's like if you would have played like that the whole season, you probably would have, made the BCS. But on to 2018 in our contrasting that season with this season. So first off, we'll do some of the losses. Notre Dame, Pitt played Notre Dame and lost. And it was a close game. I think it was 19-14. And the big reason was Alex Kessman missed 2 field goals that were makeable. And fun times, Miles Boykin had a big TD catch to put them over the top. And you guess who else had a TD catch in this game for Notre Dame, Tim?
Claypool.
I have highlights from this.
Kickoff return coming here to start the half. It is Maurice French for Pittsburgh. French, who has a touchdown return this year in the opening game of the season, is across midfield. He's down the sideline, and he's gone! Maurice French all the way. Second half kickoff, touchdown Panthers!
So that was like the big highlight from that game, I think. I think we stopped them on 4th and 1 late in the game. I did it. Yeah, I made a big tackle on Ian Book. Remember that, Tim? Yeah, no, the Pitt defense did. So, it was pretty cool. And Tim, did any other memories you have from this game?
Yeah, so they were losing with like a few minutes left, and they had 4th down, and Narduzzi elected to do a fake punt. And the aforementioned Jeff George Jr. was the one that was in the game to like he like sneaks onto the field, and then he's the one that throws the ball. It's a terrible play because it's like there was 3 minutes left. They were at their own 45, and it was 4th down. If you're gonna go for it, just go for it. Like they were trying to like, well, we don't want to go for it because that might get stopped. We don't want to punt because there's only 3 minutes left. So let's see if we can fool them. And it just didn't fool them because you can't do a fake when you're losing with a few minutes left, right? They're going to be looking for that. So I always thought that was a terrible call.
Good point by you, but I give him credit for going for it. I mean, I don't know. You think he should just punted and?
No, I think he should have just gone for it. Just keep your offense on the field.
Well, I think I don't know. With that offense, I'll talk about this offense a little later. Let me get through the losing here.
It would be, Steve, it would be the equivalent of doing a surprise onside kick with like 10 seconds left and you're losing. Like, it's like, they won't see this coming.
Yeah, when it's like under 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's like that. Trick plays only work when you know it's not coming.
I will say this is still, well, I guess this is October. This is kind of getting into that game was more in the middle of the season. So they probably had their offense a little. Like, I'm going to talk about the offense a little more here in a minute. But I always thought Kessman was more the problem in that game, in my opinion, because if he literally hits 2 field goals, it's 20 points and they win.
That's fair.
And they held Notre Dame in check totally that game. So one of the Penn State. They lost to Penn State 51-6. I was at this game. It was in the pouring down rain. It rained a lot this season. I remember that too. And it was that was a nightmare. That was a horrible game. And losing to your rival, Pitt played bad. Penn State was actually ranked number 13th at the time. So it would have been a tough win, but it was at home. And I don't remember what did Penn State? Did Penn State go to a bowl game? Well, big bowl game that year. Let's see, 2018.
All I remember about that game was, like you said, it was at home. It was like prime time. It was like one of those like 8:00 at night.
Yeah,
games.
It was an early season game too.
Right, and Penn State was the better team, especially that early in the season.
Oh, Penn State lost 24-27 to Kentucky in the Citrus Bowl. So.
We
can beat Kentucky. You can't.
But that game against Penn State, I think the frustrating thing about that game was it was never even remotely close.
And they played so bad. I remember them dropping like punts and fumbling the ball, and it was ugly.
51-6, and the score was like not even that close.
No, it was bad. It was bad. Now, I think this loss was much more embarrassing than that loss. So Pitt decides, let's see, I think that was after when that happened to the season. So Pitt goes down to North Carolina. They beat Georgia Tech, and then they go to North Carolina and lose, which they always do by a field goal. And then they play UCF, who's also ranked number 13th. And like this is like UCF. They're not like a Power 5 school, but they've been good. And Pitt loses 45-14. And it's like, once again, it's not even a game. And I think the more embarrassing was they were like having their players like, oh my leg, because like they run that hurry up offense. Because their coach at the time was Josh Heupel. So, but I guess we got him back later. Ha ha! How do you like that? No, but yeah, that was. I think. Do you think that was? I still think that's the most embarrassing loss of the Narduzzi era, just because it wasn't even a game, and like they tried to pull all this antics, and it just didn't work. I mean,
UCF was really that was when UCF.
Yeah, they went 12-1. Yeah, their only loss was the LSU, and they went 12-1 that year.
So I could probably pick out more embarrassing losses in the Narduzzi era, but this one was pretty bad.
It's just that I just like the whole flopping around stuff. That just was, I don't know why that bothered me. It just did.
You're right. I mean, in terms of the way they played, yeah, probably could rank it up there for sure.
Now, this is when I think, and I went to this game too, and I've often thought this. There's Syracuse. Pitt plays Syracuse at home, and Syracuse was not bad this year. They were actually a decent team. And Pitt ends up winning. But Pitt started off the game down 14-0, and it's 14-0 in the second quarter. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is like a flashback to like 1994. This team is just going to win like 3 games, and they'll be lucky to do that. And that's where I'm thinking this team is headed at this point, right? And this is really the play that changed their season, Tim.
5-14 a week ago. First down and more. Olesen to the 30. One man to get by. And Olesen slips out of the tackle and takes it to the end zone. Touchdown, Pittsburgh.
So that's a 69-yard run when they were down 14-0. When I saw that happen, and Pitt goes on to fight and win this game, like I really thought, wow, that really impressed me, because I've seen so many other Pitt teams just, we're down 14-0. We're already like, it's been a bad year. Just pack it up, go home. And I've seen not just a lot of teams do that. And for some reason, I don't know what it was about this team, but that's the moment where I think their whole season did a 180. They went from having 3 wins to only having 7, but to really that play. And I think it's that play. This game goes to overtime. And I remember they had to drive down the field late in the game to get a field goal. And it was so bad. They were so one-dimensional. This is the game where I think they figured out their offense too. Their offense was Darren Hall, Quadri Allison, OK Kenny, just exist between the snap and handing the ball to them. And that's all they did the rest of the season. Kenny Pickett did not throw the ball a lot. So they literally put Hall in the Wildcat late in this game. That's how they got in the field goal range. And I think they had to go for it on 4th and 1, I remember. But to finish it up in overtime, they're leading 44-37 in Syracuse.
As Dungy rolls that pocket to the right, a floater down near the goal line. And it is intercepted by the Panthers in the end zone. Coleman makes the interception, and they have won it in overtime, 44-37.
I think Coleman was a freshman. I don't even remember him playing much after that. DeMar Hamlin was there to celebrate with him, but I think he's a freshman from Brashear. So good for him. Good for Pitt. I think this, like I said, this win really saved their season. I think there was a rain delay, if I remember correctly, like a lightning delay in this game. It was a wild game, and it really, like, I think in the end, this is probably one of the ones that saved their season. Tim, do you remember anything about this game at all?
I vaguely, and I definitely see where you're going here with the compare and contrast with these two teams, because this team definitely, especially after like the Central Florida game, and then after the Penn State game, I mean, it like you said, it looked like it was a terrible, awful team with a very young quarterback, very young offense, and could have easily just folded up. And maybe you're right. Maybe this was the game where they just said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to surprise people.
I remember during the season being very impressed that they won this game, especially like if they would have come out and just kind of had a back and forth game and won. They were down 14-0 in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm.
They could have just, like, I've seen so many teams just throw in the towel, and they didn't. So later in the season, they play Virginia at Virginia. And Virginia is actually the 23rd ranked team in the country. At least they're not playing the 13th ranked team in the country, Tim. So, and they have a lot more success playing the 23rd ranked team than the 13th ranked team. So, Pitt needs to win this game to gain first place in the Coastal Division. And really, the big clincher was there's a big run by Darren Hall in the fourth quarter, and I'll play you the highlight for that.
And Pitt with a hole up the middle for Darren Hall. And he is off to the races. Darren Hall. He's got the hat trick. His third touchdown tonight. This one for 75 yards.
Darren Hall for a huge touchdown.
So that's a big run. That was a big win for Pitt. Pitt's defense played well. And that was that coach from Virginia that really didn't like us either, Bronco Mendenhall. He was from like BYU, and he wasn't very Mormon-like after that win. But he was pretty angry. He didn't like Narduzzi. Narduzzi rubs people the wrong way, but we've covered that. But that was a big win, and that was a game they needed to win. That was a big game. And like I want to say, this team, like, you know, they took care of business when they needed to, and they didn't pull any like stunning upsets. And I think that's what's so weird about this 2018 season is they kind of win the games they need to win. It's weird. It's definitely odd.
What I remember most about that game is that's when people started to say, you know, if this happened and this happened and that happened, Pitt could actually win the division.
Yeah. Yeah. And now there's a game before that against Duke. And I kind of went out of order. That was the bigger game than this game, but this game had the setup, that Virginia game. And this was Duke at home in Heinz Field, and Pitt wins 54-45. And Tim, would you believe it's a battle of first-round draft pick quarterbacks? That of Daniel Jones and Kenny Pickett.
That's right.
If I would have said that in 2018, you would have said, Steve, you're off your meds. So both these guys are going to be first-round draft picks. You would have thought I was crazy. And Kenny Pickett threw a touchdown with 12 seconds left to win the game, and we'll play that one for you.
Pickett in the shotgun. Blitz. It's picked up. He throws it down the field. There's a pass into the hands of the intended receiver, Maurice French.
Wow.
Touchdown. Wow. What a
play.
Incredible play. A 25-yard touchdown pass. Pickett to French.
Hey, this Kenny Pickett guy, he might be clutch, huh?
Let's hope so.
So that's a great play by Kenny Pickett. It's 12 seconds left. I think the game was tied at that point. And he outduels the $40 million man, Daniel Jones. Well, at least that's what he wants, $40 million. See if he gets it. Hey, how much is Kirk Cousins making? He's got to make at least half of what that guy's making, right? But I digress. Kenny for the game was before that play, he was 7 for 17. After that play, he was 8 for 18, and that was his second touchdown. He completed 8 passes, but that was the one he needed, Tim. That 8th pass was the one that counted. Ollison was unreal, 18 for 149 yards. And I think Darren Hall was hurt this game. So they put in some guy. I looked this guy up. I never even remember this guy. Valik Carter. And he had 137 yards. They kept running him on those little jet sweeps I was making fun of, but they killed Duke with that play. I think I looked him up. He's in Albany. He played in Albany after he transferred out of Pitt. So he's a one-game wonder. I don't know.
Yeah, the other guy that I think that I forgot about until this episode, and you've showed him a couple of times in highlights, is Maurice French was actually a pretty good player.
He was a good college receiver. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now this is probably one of my favorite games all time at Pitt. I went to this game. It was a blast. That would be Virginia Tech coming to play at Heinz Field. How do you think that's going to turn out there for the old Hokies, Tim? They won one game out of 20 tries up here? This one went about the way everyone has gone for Virginia Tech. They hung in there, and there's some couple big plays. There's a big 4th and 2 run, which we'll play. But my favorite part was like Virginia Tech would stop Pitt like on first down. It'd be like 2nd and 9, or Pitt would lose. It'd be like 2nd and 9 or 2nd and 13. And you'd be like, well, Pitt's got to pass the ball. Sean Watson was like, nope, we're not doing any passage. He would literally run the ball with either Olsen and Hall the next play, and they would get like 30 yards. That happened so many times on 2nd and 13 in this game. It was uncanny. It's like anytime Pitt needed 30 yards, it's like, we'll just keep running it. You can't stop it. And so like 4th and 2, Virginia Tech had gotten back into the game, and Olsen scores. Like, this is really the backbreaker.
Pickett, Olsen breaks free. Who needs a first down when you can get 6? 31 yards.
The run was so good. Look at the full. If you go online and see it, like, you'll see the fullback literally has no one to block. He's just like, who do I block? Ain't nobody here. But there's a run later. I would play it, but the audio is absolutely horrible because they're just hyping Sports Center. They don't even care about the game. But Olsen, like, they're at their own 3, and they just literally hand off to Olsen. Olsen bursts through the line, and he was pretty fast for a big guy. And a defensive back named Caleb Farley, decided he wanted to try and tackle Quadri Olsen. How do you think that went for him, Tim, if you remember correctly?
Yeah, not so well.
He literally had a footprint on his back. Like, I remember that play is like 40 yards down the field. I was like, 40 yards, that's a really good run. And then it's like, oh my gosh, he just ran over the guy and went for another 50 and a touchdown. It's an awesome play. If you can go, we'll link to it. Go see it on our website. But it's a fun one. That was a fun game to go to. I went to with my friend who's a Virginia Tech fan, so maybe it wasn't so much fun for him. But good times. Way to see Pitt really blow them out there. And it was a great end, and that set them up. The next week they had to go to Wake Forest, so they have to go to Wake Forest in a team that really isn't that good. And as we said over the past, this is the games. These Wake Forest, these Duke games, these are the games Pitt normally loses. And this is kind of like, well, Pitt's got to win this to win the Coastal, right? So they don't have to go down to Miami and win. And what does Pitt do? They go and they win convincingly, 34-13. Pickett's stats were actually good. He had 23 for 30, 350 yards. They really shut down the running game of Wallace in the Hall. DeMar Hamlin had a nice interception. It was they ran a weird play, Stefano Milan, an offensive line. They ran that little throwback screen to him, that little offensive lineman thing. So I think I have that.
Throws it, it's deflected and picked. Incredible reaction from DeMar Hamlin.
Well, there's the pick by DeMar Hamlin. I think this is the offensive lineman touchdown.
Pickett throws it back. It's the offensive lineman, Bryce Hargrove, into the end zone. Make it.
So they had a lot of the Matt Canada play still laying around in the playbook, apparently. That's the old, who's that, Brian O'Neill play. So they score an offensive line touchdown. And with that, Pitt secures a spot in the ACC championship game against Clemson.
That was really, I don't think we can underscore how unbelievable it was that Pitt was in the ACC championship game that year.
And they're a one-dimensional team. They're a running team. They don't, Kenny Pickett doesn't really throw the ball unless they have to. And their defense is mediocre. So that's kind of what they do, is they run the ball. They got two guys that can do it, and they're pretty tough to stop.
Yeah, there was a headline in the Tribune Review from August 24th of that year. It said Pat Narduzzi promises Pitt fans trip to ACC championship game. And I posted that on social media at the time, being like, "Oh, I'm gonna get my tickets now." Har, 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 har. And sure enough,
He made you eat your words, yeah.
oh, for sure. And the odds of them getting there were just so. It was now. To be fair, the division was a little weak that year, and everything else. But just the fact that they did that, it's one of the more unbelievable accomplishments in recent Pitt history.
Yeah, so they're setting up. They have a big showdown against Clemson, who's ranked number 2, and we all know how Pitt does. I think at this point they had beaten 3 number 2 ranked teams, right, in a row. So Clemson, and they've beaten Clemson. I don't think they had lost to Clemson ever in Pitt school history. So what do you think is going to happen, Tim? Yeah, Pitt gets blown out 42-10. In their defense, Clemson blew out Alabama 44-16 in the championship game, so maybe Pitt was in a little over their heads.
yeah, that's when Princess was their quarterback, and he was just unstoppable at that point. And
well, in that game, Trevor Lawrence was. I wondered what his stats were. He was only 12 for 24, 118 yards and 2 touchdowns. Travis Etienne was the one who killed him in that game.
Yeah.
He had 12 rushes for 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. And another thing that killed him, can you guess Kenny Pickett's passing yards for this game?
Low.
They matched the number on his uniform, 8. He had 4. He went 4 for 6. He completed 4 passes in a football game. It was ugly. And I remember that after that game, too, there was an article saying their passing game needs to get better. Kenny Pickett needs to get better. This is really bad. So
they were happy to be there, and
they went to Stanford. Really... They played Stanford in the Sun Bowl, lost 14-13. But I think both Olsen and Hall got hurt in that game. And once again, these minor bowl games, it's kind of like the biggest who cares.
That was also the game where Stanford scored the game-winning touchdown by fumbling the ball at the 2-yard line and then picking it up in the end zone. So typical Pitt loss, but. I just looked it up, Steve. The preseason FPI gave Pitt a 2.2% chance to win the Coastal Division that year.
Yeah, I have that. Yeah, so wrapping this all up, because some concluding stuff here. It's kind of a long conclusion. So the final record in 2018 was 7-7, and they were 6-2 in the ACC. And the only ranked team that Pitt had beat that season was Virginia. And another issue, like you said, it wasn't like that great. Like really, the record really wasn't that great.
Right.
But you felt like they overachieved. Now in 2010, the record was 8-5 and 5-2 in the Big East. And
I would have never remembered their record being that good in 2010.
Yeah. You thought, oh, they stunk.
Yeah.
So this is what I say about 2008. Pitt won the games they needed to win against lesser ranked opponents. They just weren't quite ready at quarterback to play the Clemsons and Notre Dames of the world. Now, here's a what if, Tim. Let's say we could have put the Kenny Pickett of 2021 with the Ollison and Hall of 2018. Now, what do you think? I think that Clemson game would have been a lot closer, and they probably would have beat Notre Dame. I don't know, and then maybe Penn State.
Well, it would have been 51-6 against Penn State, and it wouldn't have been. You're right. I don't know if they beat Princess or not, but it would have been a heck of a lot closer than it was.
Yeah, with that running game and with Kenny Pickett playing at the top of his game, maybe you have an Addison, playing or a better wide receiver, but what they say, if and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. So it didn't happen. Some of the aftermath with the coaches in 2018, predictably, offensive coordinator Sean Watson is fired because, you can get away with a one-dimensional offense in college and have a pretty good season, but they were kind of, we got to bring in somebody else. So the guy they did bring in was Mark Whipple. So 3 years later, Kenny Pickett's a first-round draft pick. Go figure, Tim. I really think this year saved Narduzzi's job. I didn't realize he had predicted that they were going to go to the championship game. But I always have thought that this was like, if he doesn't pull this off, that maybe he's on the hot seat, or maybe something, really they do something rash. But maybe it's just like Heather Lyke just hanging in there. Especially, I think the UCF loss was so demoralizing. It was just that was bad. That was probably, like I said, that was just one thing. And maybe Pitt's going through another coaching turmoil like they had in those years where they had 6 coaches in 5 years. So in 2010, Steve Peterson does the opposite. He fires Dave Wannstedt. And what does it do? That throws the program into complete disarray for the next 4 or 5 years. They have 6 coaches. Also, I think this is more of an excuse. Steve Peterson blames Wannstedt for a bunch of players. I think it was 22 of them. It was a Sports Illustrated article that they're getting arrested. And Wannstedt said, I suspended them. I disciplined them. But they kind of used that as an excuse to fire him and bring in Coach Wife Beater. So
yeah, he was worried about the players getting suspended. Then he hired that guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So
oops.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. Steve Peterson is really bad at hiring coaches.
Well, here's where I'll try to be fair, because in retrospect, firing Wannstedt was a mistake. You're absolutely right. It threw the program into complete chaos. It took them literally half a decade to recover from that. Half a decade when they were they were literally almost in the Sugar Bowl, one mixed extra point from the Sugar Bowl 8 months before that. So in retrospect, that was a mistake. And Wannstedt was a guy that wanted to be here too. And you went through all these other coaches, and then you had
the carpetbagger Todd
yes.
Graham. I think Paul Chryst wanted to be here. It's just there was only one team that he was ever going to leave for, and that stupid one team.
Fair, but it was still Wannstedt wouldn't have. So again, took him literally a half a decade to recover from firing Wannstedt. Now, here's where I'm going to try to be fair. Wannstedt was such a good ambassador for the school. He was great at recruiting. He was a Pitt guy. You loved everything about him. He did not win big games.
He didn't even win like normal games, like
right.
UConn. Like if you would have won UConn and lost to West Virginia, he might have still got fired, but I think maybe not, because he still would have got a share of the title. And that was the problem. Is like,
yes,
that's the difference between him and Narduzzi.
Yes,
is Narduzzi wins those games.
Right.
And that doesn't.
And he doesn't. And that was, and honestly, go back to when he was in the NFL with Chicago and Miami.
Yeah.
It was very similar. Like he was the NFL coach that would get teams into the playoffs, and then they'd lose the first playoff game. It just, he could never really get over the hump that he had, and he wasn't a great game coach. And I just don't know what the ceiling was with Wannstedt. I think the ceiling has been higher with Narduzzi. So maybe they needed to go through that half decade of turmoil. I don't know. And I don't know that it would have gone a whole lot better for Wannstedt, because they also were transitioning into the ACC, but definitely having 18 different coaches made it pretty bad. So was it a mistake? Probably. Was it not a mistake? I think you can make that argument too.
So in the aftermath, let's see what happened to all the players. 2010, Jonathan Baldwin, who's like the biggest quitter ever, he gets drafted by the Pitt Chiefs. And I predicted, I said he's not going to do anything in the NFL. And guess what he did, Tim? Nothing. He was a huge bust.
He was a first-round pick too.
Yeah, first-round pick by the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So Dion Lewis, who I totally took this guy for granted. He is a 5th-round pick by the Eagles, and he kind of bounces around a lot in his career. But he wins a Super Bowl with the Patriots, and that was Super Bowl 51, the infamous one against
28-3.
Yeah. I don't think he had a big role in that game. Was he hurt, or I don't know. He had a big role in that season, but he got a Super Bowl ring out of it.
He played for Tennessee for several years too. He was definitely
he's a good he's a good, had a great, not a great, but a good NFL career.
Yes.
Yeah. Jabal Sheard, same kind of thing. He gets drafted by the Browns in the 2nd round, and he has a pretty good career. He's not like a Hall of Famer, but a solid year, and he's another guy. He was on that Super Bowl 51 team with the Patriots, and he was still really good. And the game against Rutgers, I remember him. He was getting so much pressure on the Rutgers quarterback. They tried to block him like straight up with a tackle. Then they moved like a tight end over, and he's beating both those guys. So at one point, Rutgers had a running back, a tackle, and a tight end blocking Jabal Sheard. It was like you literally have 3 people on your offense. That means like you've literally eliminated like what? A part of your offense from your game plan, just the blocking one guy. So he was that good in college.
Steve, fact checking my claim from earlier, Jabal Sheard did not go through a plate glass window. He threw a guy through a plate glass door at an art museum. So he was smart enough not to go through himself. He just threw somebody else.
Well, I think there was a heated debate over, realism and expressionism and the French movement. I mean, he's very, very passionate about his art. So.
I'm sure that's probably exactly what it was.
Jabal Sheard is very, very cultured. We've had a very cultured program.
That's right.
That was probably another one of those incidents that led to Wannstedt's firing too. So, Tino Sunseri, he did not even get drafted by the NFL, not even signed by the NFL. So he went to the CFL and he played for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, not the other Roughriders. So he has the most 2-point conversions of all time in the NFL or the CFL. And just to complete the circle of life here, Tim, he's now assistant coach at James Madison with Frank Signetti's brother, Kurt. So, and he was on the 2020 Alabama team as a coach that won a national championship. So Tino's doing okay for himself. Here's a good question, Tim. Little off topic, but maybe not. Did Todd Graham ruin Tino Sunseri's career?
He didn't help Tino Sunseri's career.
I've often thought that. I wonder if he doesn't have Wannstedt the whole way through or a better offensive coordinator. I wonder if he doesn't make the NFL just as like a third stringer or something.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a dramatically different offense that he brought in. It was that high octane offense, and Todd Graham, as we've documented on the show, one of probably the only human beings ever to not have a soul, and so it just it can you blame Todd Graham? I don't know, but he certainly didn't do Dino any favors.
Got him into the CFL, I guess. Got him that 2-point record in the CFL.
Yeah, and Steve, my big takeaway out of your Tino summary there is that you're saying the CFL actually had 2 franchises with the same name.
They do. The Rough Riders game. I think that's a South Park joke, I think.
Yeah. Canada, if you want people to stop making fun of you so much, it's stuff like this. Just
and there was I think it's the Calgary. Is it the Calgary?
That's the Stampeders or something. It might have been Ottawa. I think Ottawa had a team called the Rough Riders. But that's, you gotta, here's the New York Jets playing the Oklahoma City Jets. It's like, what?
It's the Jets game.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Pat Bostic, we kind of briefly mentioned him. He was on that 2010 team. He's now the play-by-play guy for the Pitt Panthers, and he's pretty good at it. He's a homer for sure, but he's fun to listen to. If you're stuck in your car during a Pitt football game, you could do a lot worse than listening to Pat Bostic. He actually, in our one highlight of the Maurice French, did you hear him there? Did you? If you listen real close in our little highlight, you'll hear him. That's Pat Bostic. So good for him. He's another, like you talk about ambassador for Pitt. This guy's turned out to be a great ambassador for Pitt. He's young enough. He'll be here for years and years to come. Good for him. I hope he stays and is happy, and good for him. He's a legend at Pitt and he deserves it. So. Kenny Pickett, I don't know. He had some mediocre years after that, Tim, and then I don't know. He had a pretty good senior season, and I don't know. Did he get drafted?
Where is that guy now?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know whatever happened to that guy. He got drafted by some NFL team, didn't he? I don't know. Never see him again. So anyway, Darren Hall. Talk about somebody I have no idea what I mean, it's like the Simpsons episode where Ozzie Smith goes into the mystery spot. Maybe that's where Darren Hall is. I don't know. He's literally in oblivion. Maybe he's living in Youngstown. That's where he's from. I have no idea. If you know where Darren Hall is, or if you are Darren Hall, please email the podcast. We would love to know what you're up to, and hopefully things are going well. Maybe he's a successful CEO of some company somewhere, Tim. I don't know. But Darren Hall, he had a great season for Pitt. I'll say that. So whatever. Quadre Allison, he was drafted by the Falcons in the 5th round. I thought out of all the players on that team, this guy would stick somewhere. He'd have like a Dion Lewis type career. It hasn't worked at all for him. He is not. Now, I don't know if it's just because the Falcons have stunk and he hasn't gone to a good franchise, but he went to the Cowboys for a year, and then I think I just saw he got signed by the Jacksonville Jaguars this offseason. So maybe Doug Peterson will find a use for him. I don't know. I sure hope so. I think he's good enough to play in the NFL, but apparently he hasn't been to this point.
Yeah, I thought, I mean, you said about the Falcons stink, but then also that's also an opportunity to come in there and have a chance. And he had a few chances, especially with injuries and stuff. I actually remember that pretty clearly. That there was a couple of games where he was either the starter or elevated to a lot more playing time, and you're right, he just never really did much with it, unfortunately.
As for Damar Hamlin, he was drafted by the Bills in the 6th round of the 21 draft. He was a starter in 2022, and I think Damar Hamlin right now is just happy to be here, folks. Just happy to be here. If he'll ever play football again or not, I have no idea. I wish him the best. I hope he does. I mean, that would be great.
Yeah.
Chris Pronger, believe it or not, his heart stopped on the ice, and he played another 10 years after that. So maybe it'll be something like that, just some sort of freak thing that happened, and Damar Hamlin will be back and play football. That'd be pretty cool if he did.
It'd be cool, but like you said, number one thing is that he's still here with us, and I think
he's just happy to be here.
Yeah,
I say that myself some days. I'm just happy to be here, Tim. Just happy to be here.
Yeah,
every day above ground, right? So my opinion, why do I dislike this team so much? The 2010 team, because they got Dave Wannstedt fired, who I really liked. I really like Dave. He, like you said, he wasn't a good game day coach, but he's a really good recruiter and a really good person. And I think he tried to run a clean program. He had some discipline issues, and I thought he cleaned them up. But it just, I think too, like they had a preseason ranking, that 2010 team, of 15. So they had high expectations. They had been in position to win the Big East the other 2 years. Like the game against Cincinnati, nobody remembers that. They lost that game. They could have won that game. And then, of course, like you said, the infamous 31-point lead game. And it just they should have won the Big East, and they lost to Cincinnati both times. And then again, it's like it happened 3 years in a row. That UConn loss, I think I really do. West Virginia was kind of the nail in the coffin, but that was definitely the lid closing shut. Yeah. Jordan Todman, come on. Like, you have Jabal Sheard. I'm sorry, you should just be able to. It's just so frustrating.
It was surprising, though, even after all the things you said, it was still surprising that they let him go. And like right after the season, too. I mean, it was just, again, the program had just steadily improved over his whole tenure. And then they had a down year. They lost a couple of games they shouldn't. And it was just like, bam, sorry, that's not good enough. You're gone. It seemed very sudden. It seemed very, to your point earlier, I just, the difference in ADs, right? There's just a big difference in ADs.
Yeah. This team still, even after a disappointing season, had 5 players drafted in the NFL. John Baldwin, Jabal Sheard, Dion Lewis, Jason Pinkston, and Greg Romeus. I mean, out of those guys, probably Sheard and Lewis did the most. I don't remember Pinkston or Romeus doing much of anything. So the 2010 team, they did win their final 2 games. They beat Kentucky. 2018, they had no preseason ranking, and they were expected to finish near the bottom of the ACC. Like you said, they had, a 2% chance of winning? Mm-hmm. Out of a media poll, they were picked 5th, behind Duke, actually. Miami was picked to win the Coastal that year. Now, in contrast, which is weird, another weird little thing is the 2018 team, after that Wake Forest win, they didn't win a game the rest of the season. They lost to Miami, They got blown out in Miami. That's like Pitt tradition. You go down there and you get blown out. That's just how it goes for you. And it's just like, and then they lost to Clemson. I think in the bowl loss, like you said, it was like a weird fluky loss, but I always thought that bowl game to Clemson kind of left us sour because it's just like I got so sick of hearing Clemson this, Clemson that, Clemson. I really hoped Pitt would have been more competitive.
Right.
And it's just, they just weren't. What I loved about this team, like I said, they could have mailed it in. They just did not. They refused to quit. And it's hard. And this is college football at its best. You don't have the most talented, maybe not the great, but you have a bunch of guys that pull together and keep their heads down and just work and put together a lot of effort. And you can see success, and it's fun. It was very gratifying to see this team rewarded with the Coastal Championship and going to the championship game. And they just didn't. They really didn't have that much talent. I think they only had one guy, Allison was the only guy that drafted. Hall didn't even make it to the NFL. I mean, Hamlin did eventually a couple years later, and I think Dane Jackson too. Like the players, like who doesn't like Kenny Pickett, Allison, Hall, Hamlin? You know, they're all real likable. Like just Baldwin, like you said, they're not throwing people through plate glass windows in an art gallery. You know,
yeah.
They definitely should have beat Notre Dame. Kessman, once again. Alex Kessman, feast or famine Kessman, huh? He'll hit you a 60-yarder. He'll miss an extra point. You never know what you're going to get with that. Probably the big reason if he was consistent, he would be the NFL kicker and probably a pretty good one too, because he has the leg to do it. Like we already mentioned, the Coastal Division sucked that year. They were really not good. Like, Miami, like really slunk down, and who else was in that division? Georgia Tech was horrible. Syracuse was in the other division. Duke wasn't that good. Virginia was probably the second best team. So but you can only play the teams you're scheduled to play, right, Tim? And they won those games. This is what they did different than teams in past Pitt seasons. They didn't lose to Virginia. They didn't lose to Virginia Tech. That's the difference in this team in 2010 is they won the games that they needed to win. And I have said that 2 or 3 times, but that's just, as a Pitt fan, you don't expect that. You always expect that other shoe to drop.
Yeah, that's well said, Steve. The really the difference between those two teams, one was supposed to be really good, and then they just went out, seemed to coast, seemed to quit, didn't really play well, and the other team wasn't supposed to do anything and could have easily thrown in the towel and said, yeah, we stink. But like you said, that's kind of the college football at its best. Like they just came out there and fought and had a really good season. So really interesting comparison between those two seasons.
And I think the 2018 team set up for the 2021. It didn't lead to what you can't say it's like an A to B thing, but I think it took 2 more years. But I think it gave Narduzzi 2 more years to work with to get his team back in the position to finally win the ACC in 2021. And I really think you trace that back to this 2018 team. Maybe that goes to Kenny Pickett. Maybe that's the character of Kenny Pickett too, having a guy like that on your team. So, because that's the common thread, if you think about it. So, well, that's all. I hope you enjoyed our comparison. And, I know these aren't the most memorable seasons ever. I mean, it is for me. I still love the 2018 team is probably one of my favorite Pitt teams of all time, which is, hard to believe a 7-7 team would have such a warm spot in my heart. But thank you for joining us. Check us out on all the podcasting services, Spotify and all the rest. I listen to it. If you listen to us on Spotify, Tim, it sounds great. It's easy to find too if you use Spotify. That's my preferred podcaster.
Yeah, Spotify is a good one for sure.
Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.